beautiful thing about having a gift is that a gift is not kept for yourself. What the enemy tries to do when you are gifted is to try to say that your mess negates the gift. When you're gifted, you know God for yourself. You have to get out the way that you're gifted. Jesus is mountain. It's all right. It's all right there. It's all right. I promised this morning not to stand before you long. I wanted to deal with this text, this Matthew text. I've been reading these texts and they've been overwhelming me at times as I kind of try to hear what God is saying. And it would be wrong for us to be here on this morning and forget the time in which we are here. 10 years later, after September 11th, 2001. 10 years ago, at 8 something in the morning, Eastern Standard Time, I was having breakfast with one of my deacons at a place called Waffles, Hampton, Ohio. We had just got through working out. We went to have breakfast. My phone started to ring. First phone call was one of my parishioners at the time who said, "Pastor, have you seen the news?" We had been sitting there face to face just talking after we had worked out. I hadn't really paid attention to the TV screens that were all around us. And when I looked up, I happened to see the second plane fly into the top tower and began to crumble. My initial reaction was I needed to get up and go to base. If you're military, and you've ever been a part of military service, you know when stuff jumps off, the first thing that a soldier does is try to get to base to get orders of what was going on. The strange thing was that it was 2001. I'd been out of the service since 1998. There was something about what had been instilled in me, about what I had been trained to do, that in times of peril and conflict came out of me intrinsically without me even realizing that I was no longer on active duty. I mean, I got up from the table, I slid away, I started moving out. And the deacon grabbed my arm and said, "Pastor, where are you going?" I said, "I got to get to base. There's a war going on. Something has happened and it's got my attention and I got to get to Fort Camp." And I had to catch myself as I began to watch and see the horrific scene of what terror and destruction attempted to do to the American people. They attempted to make us all afraid, to go into our houses and hide. But the funny thing about that act of terror against us, that it did something to this country that we have somehow never begun to sleep on, is that it brought folks that didn't look like each other together. Black folk, white folk, wasn't arguing about what color we were. Democrat and Republican, when talking about our philosophical political policies at the time. Everybody at that point wanted to figure out what we needed to do to help those Americans that had been impacted. Because everybody knew the attack in New York and the attack in Washington, the attempted attack in Pennsylvania, impacted every single person that claimed to be an American. Didn't matter how we got here. Didn't matter that some of us came over on the Pinta de Santa Maria. Didn't matter that some of us came over the hulls of ship. At that point of time, everybody was on the same page. And everybody was trying to figure out how we defended our honor. I flew a lot even then, so I had to get on planes. And so it went from walking through security to having to get there 2 or 3 hours in advance, just to be able to get patted down from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet, in order just to be able to get on a plane. Life changed in the midst of terror. What came out of it was our ability to realize we can get past our petty differences. We can get past the things that separate us when the right cause is in front of us. 2011, 10 years later, we don't worry about getting to the airport early no more. All of a sudden, we start to notice the differences we do have. Now, looking across the aisle in Washington, folks are looking at each other and pointing the finger. Black folk and white folks now identify themselves again as black folk and white folk. It's a funny thing what happens when time comes in between the chaos and your comfortable life that you live. And it's something about us that if you just take that particular instance and apply it to how we are in the church, I think the same type of complacency has impacted and infected us in the church. Somewhere we've forgotten our charge. Somewhere we've forgotten our call. Somewhere we have forgotten why we have been called for a time such as this. We see stuff that happens. We see children walking in stabbing teachers, and we don't get upset about it no more. We see babies still having babies, and we don't get concerned about it as much anymore. We stopped worrying about the 15-year-old that was raping folk in Southeast Memphis, or the 18-year-old that killed his girlfriend just around the corner up the street. Somehow or other, as long as we can come to the house, sing hallelujah, and go home, we think it's all right. I stop by to tell Union Grove that the towers are still falling. There's still a terror alert among us. That sin is ever present. And it's changed his demeanor. He's changed his personality. He's changed his perception. No longer does he have two horns on his head, a tail on his back, and a pitchfork. No longer does he come dressed in red and you can see him. No, if you like being in red, guess what, gentlemen? Y'all missed that. Short and pretty if you like big and red. If you want big and handsome, he ain't gonna show you, send you short and fat, ladies. The enemy has a way to send you exactly what you want, to keep you comfortable and to think that somehow or another you have arrived at some place. They tell me across the street y'all had church. They tell me across the street that you can walk in and hear the bellowing voice of J.W. Jones and folks get happy just to be in the house. Funny thing happened along the way to 905. Folk came in over there wanting to give praise. Over here, they're being asked permission if they can give some praise when they feel like it. Here, we want somebody to beg us to give God praise. Here, we want somebody to tap us and ask permission if it's okay if I wave my hand. Is it okay if I stomp my feet? Can I say holy? Oh, can I say it too loud? Is that okay? Over here, somehow we forgot that the terror alert, sin is still on his job. We still got ourselves all caught up because we've forgotten our charge. I'm not going to stay long on this text because it's very evident to me that somehow or another we've got in between God and the people. And each individual has to decide why you come. What is the reason that you get up in the morning? Why on Sunday do you come to Union Grove? What is your deliverable that you want when you walk out of this church that knows that you've been in a worship experience? What is it that when you leave this place you'll go tell somebody that I got something around the corner of the street that I can tell you about in your life that will change your life? I know the enemy's on your back, but if you just hear the word from on high, why is it we leave, we don't tell nobody about where we've been? I heard somebody say the church is the only place where Christians don't act like Christians.
Y'all missed that too. Look at the tape, get the CD, you'll play it back.